Great leadership to me is about realizing the potential in someone, helping them see that for themselves, and then helping them execute on it, right? If I can help someone achieve something that they never thought was possible through empowerment, we can create success at so many different levels.
The following is a Big Sky Economic Development production.
It's Mars B.
And Kavo.
And this is The Vault at 201 North Broadway.
A business podcast
where we bring you entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders of Montana
to share their stories, expertise, industry insights, and strategies.
And we are sharing them all with you every single week.
You don't want to miss this.
Learn how to better start, manage, and grow your business.
And your leadership style.
Tangible takeaways to save you time and improve whatever it is that you're working on.
You're listening to The Vault.
Thank you to Big Sky Economic Development for supporting The Vault at 201 North Broadway. Big Sky Economic Development provides leadership and resources for business creation, expansion, retention, new business recruitment, community development, and workforce development. Learn more at bigskyeconomicdevelopment.org. Joining us today, we're really excited to have you here, is Dusty Eaton, CEO and principal at A&E Design. So welcome, Dusty.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're really excited.
We're happy to have you.
And we just thought it'd be fun with you to just jump right into where you grew up, a little bit about you, your background story to your journey of where you are today.
Yeah. Where'd your journey begin?
It began right here in Billings.
What?
Yeah. So I was born and raised here in Billings, and I think it is just part of my story that I'm so passionate about Billings and about seeing this community thrive, because I was born here, raised here, then moved away, studied architecture, and ultimately came back came back with a focus on being really committed to improving this community. And my wife and I both have our families here, long, deep roots. My grandfather started a construction business in Billings, and the legacy that he left is still a part of my story. I still have people today that tell me that they live in a house that he built, and it was an incredible experience, or he serviced them for 50, 60, 70 years. And it's such a cool part of the legacy for my family here in this community that I hope to be able to carry on.
That's really unique. Did you work in the company at all growing up? Like, what was it like growing up in Billings as a young kid?
I did. I would sweep the houses out when I was very young.
I was like, I bet you had some task or assignment.
I did. And my dad would often tell me, don't do a job unless you're going to do it well. So I
love that. That's a really good quote.
Sweep out the houses. And if I didn't do it right, I was back there doing it again that night. And just really growing up around the construction industry influenced my decision to study architecture and be involved in the construction industry in a slightly different way.
Did your dad grow up or did he work in the family business too?
He did, yeah. And he has continued it on. It's Eaton & Yost Construction, and they still are in business today.
Wow, that's really impactful. Did you go to school in Bozeman?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say the wrong one if it wasn't it, but I was like, I'm pretty sure you're a Bozeman grad.
It is a touchy subject, yes. Yes, I as the president of Montana State, often says, do you bleed blue and gold? And I do. It's true. So, yeah, I got my master's degree in architecture from Montana State, and then decided to stay in Montana and move back to Billings after that.
And where did you end up landing when you came back to Billings? Did you come straight to A&E?
I did. Yeah. So I had this connection to the firm, and I said, if I'm going to be in Montana, if I'm going to stay here, A&E was the only place I wanted to work. And so I actually interviewed with them while I was finishing up my thesis and got a job. They weren't hiring at the time, but they took a risk and hired me anyways. And
a good risk.
That was in 2006. So that dates me a little bit.
What about A&E when you're like, if I'm going to work for anyone in the state, because there are other firms across the state of Montana and Billings, what stood out to you about A&E?
Yeah, it was really the quality of the work and the culture of the environment. Really, they were a smaller firm, had just this really kind of boutique feel with a really aggressive sensibility in design and being innovative and really spanning a lot of different project types, which was really fascinating to me. knowing that I could come into a firm of that size and have an impact and really be a part of not only the work, but also the culture and helping shape that and influence that, it was really paramount to me when I was looking to either stay in Montana or go to a larger city.
And was A&E at that time just in Billings? Because you guys have other locations.
We do now, yeah. So it was Billings and Missoula. And A&E was about 25 to 30 people then, and we're 100 now.
Wow. So you talked about the culture really was a driving factor for you in choosing A&E. How would you describe the culture there?
Yeah, so the culture is a big focus for me, and just really continuing to think about the kind of environment we create matters. It matters to recruiting people, to retaining people, and culture is so much about people knowing that their work matters, knowing that their commitment to a place is going to have a difference, right? And I always think about culture as this kind of unwritten rules as to how things happen here, right? People like us do things like this, is a quote that I love. And knowing that your work matters, knowing that if I can inspire somebody with a good culture to show up every day and feel empowered to do meaningful work, and just that feeling we all know when you have a day's work that matters, that you show up inspired, you're on fire for what you're doing because it's connected to something bigger than yourself, nothing is better than that, right? And that really is what a good culture is about. Your work matters, you're connected to the values of the organization, and those values have a lasting impact in the community. So when we think about, and of course culture changes over time, and it was different when I started at A&E to what we've really focused it on today, but there's so much opportunity, and when people are connected to culture, they don't leave. And that really matters.
It creates loyalty,
And you've been there for quite a while, so and we really want to dive into this culture because I think you guys are doing really cool things at A&E. What was that pathway for you from starting on? They take a risk on you, and they're like, "We'll hire you." But now, as CEO, what was that growth for you?
Yeah, it's been a journey, and so much of it is focused on design and doing. Early in your career, it's so much about what you're willing to just grind it out. Back to that quote of my dad's is, you're going to do a job, do it well. And just really, I attribute a lot of my success to an early understanding of the power of hard work and how important that is in moving. Talent takes you so far, but you have to grind it out. You have to be willing to do the hard work. And so just continually pushing and driving for success, not only for myself, but for the broader firm and for the people around me, and thinking about how you empower others to achieve what their goals are and to achieve success. Growing up through the firm, I became the youngest partner at about age 28. And then really in about 6-7 years ago, became the CEO. And we just had the firm really was in need of a fresh focus and a redirection from a leadership perspective and clarifying leadership roles, as many organizations go through this process, right? We need to be intentional about the roles that we create, what the expectations of those roles are. And that was really an opportunity that many of my peers said, this is the position that we need you to do, right? This is where you are going to fit best and have the greatest impact, and one that I was excited to take on. And it's been a really great journey, one that I put a lot on my shoulders, and I feel a considerable amount of responsibility for, but also a great opportunity.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think we saw a little bit of that shift. I think you guys started even doing things, rebranding a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. You guys did a fresh look on the logo. You moved locations, right? All under your...
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, it was really about an intentionality on being a design leader. And we think about, if you look across the region, and there's a lot of work that's done, a lot of buildings, a lot of design work that could be so much better. We always look for that potential. I think it's the nature of design and architecture is thinking about how does something that exists become better. And looking across the work, it's like we as a state need to raise the bar. If it's our K-12 schools, if it's higher education buildings, it really doesn't matter what big or small the project type is. We need to raise the bar for Montanans, for our communities that we can set a new standard for an expectation around design excellence that is much higher than we felt was often being done. So that renewed focus on design, on innovation, on creating something that's never been done before, absolutely lit our team on fire to say, let's become nationally recognized design leader in a very small region, right? And how do we become that nationally recognized design leader by the quality of the work that we're doing, even if it is in smaller communities, more rural or remote communities? The work matters. The design opportunities are still there. They're there every time. It's just a matter of how you capitalize on them with the right talent.
So with that, how do you guys pick the projects that you focus on then?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yeah, we spend a lot of time with what we call a go, no go process, right? Is this is this kind of project going to have an impact? Can we make change with it? So that's important because the work that we take and the projects that we do will perpetuate the next project and the next project. And so if you take work that doesn't inspire you or you feel can't have an impact, that's exactly the type of work you're going to perpetuate. And the opposite is also true. So just being really thoughtful about this process of what type of work it is, how it impacts the community, how we can elevate the quality of the spaces and the people who interact with those projects. Those are the kinds of things that really matter to us.
And so you're talking a lot about design, and maybe for those that are in our market or not as familiar with this work, what does design entail and mean to A&E? Because it's more than a building.
It really is. And it's about shaping the lives of people that interact with the design and the experience they have, right? So if we think about at A&E, we've really started to take like a very prescriptive kind of in the box definition of architecture and blow that up and really think more about the experience we create through our work.
I love that because everybody's been into a space. I just think of cubicles where you're just not inspired. And so how are you supposed to do meaningful work if you're not inspired?
That's exactly right. So if you think about the experience you have, the medium in which we're working, we've realized doesn't matter if we're creating, right? So design goes beyond architecture for us. It goes into environmental graphic design and branding and website development and all the way down to like a logo creation. The medium that we're creating in is less important than the experience we create. And when we came to this realization and we began to shift the firm away from maybe only considering traditional architecture and thinking more broadly about how do we create impactful experiences through our work, it might mean that it's by creating a brand, by creating a space, might be a new building, might be interior design, it might be historic preservation of a structure as impactful as, say, Old Faithful in Yellowstone National Park, right? We've been working on this structure for 25 years in various capacities, preserving one of the most important buildings in our past. It all has to do with the experience that we create. And so kind of breaking down that otherwise traditional description of architecture has freed us up to hire creative talent that isn't necessarily just an architect. Yes, we have architects and interior designers and historic preservation expertise, but we also have creative writers, we have brand expertise, we have graphic designers, we have other disciplines that all play into creating impactful experiences. Just the creative work goes so far beyond just traditional architecture. And that's where our team is really finding this incredible inspiration to do work that maybe blurs the boundary between these otherwise traditional areas of work.
So I just have a selfish question. Do you prefer just from scratch build up, or would you prefer like a historical space you have to redesign?
Oh, that's like an impossible question.
I'm sorry. I just was sitting there hearing your passion. It was so exciting. And I was like, I need to know.
Yeah. So there's opportunities with both. And that's what we're always seeking, to find the magic, right? Find the opportunity that's in there that no one else can see. So actually with an existing building, sometimes that provides the most unique opportunity to create something that no one else can see, right? The building we're sitting in, right? These historic buildings in our communities, or even if they're not historic, just buildings that have kind of gone through the first or second cycle of their life, and now they're looking for a reimagination. Our office downtown, a block from here,
is a great example of that.
Yeah, really.
You always have great Christmas decorations.
Well, did you guys, isn't there a pool? Like, wasn't there a pool in your basement?
There was. It was built as the first YMCA in Montana.
Wow.
So there's great historical photos of this really prominent structure and had this really great history. And as we've uncovered the past of this building, you realize how many lives it's had. And now we're a chapter in that story. And it's to breathe life into a building that was otherwise sitting largely vacant, right? There was not a lot happening with that building on this very important corner in downtown Billings. So when we think about our work, yes, we created the kind of space that we need for our culture and our people. And we made it a priority to put urban lofts on the upper 2 floors to create more downtown living, which is such a priority. So that building had an impact on us and our people, but it also has an impact on the community, right? So if we can breathe life into an important corner downtown, it means we can be a part of Art Walk. It means we can be a part of kind of reviving something bigger than just ourselves. And that's where, when you think about, new buildings versus existing, they all have different opportunities. Our job is to capitalize on each of those opportunities.
I love that.
And you've really spearheaded this shift for your organization. Prior to that and taking on that role, what were some of those things that inspired this change of mindset and the way you're looking at how architecture has been done and how you want to see it done in the future?
Yeah, the opportunity really started to arise by seeing client needs. So we found that oftentimes when someone is building, say, a new restaurant, for example, right? And they come, they say, okay, we're going to create this new restaurant. We realized that we're one piece of their larger project development. Their puzzle that they're trying to put together involves a lot of different aspects. And the architecture, the space that we create is critical, and it's a really important part of that process. But if we can have a broader influence and help really with those client needs that go beyond just the building, it can elevate the design experience for their clients and customers consistently across all the different touch points that they might have. So if it means that the brand, now that they're creating from scratch, is more integrated to the architecture, then there's a consistently high level of design experience that we can create by looking at each of those areas where they're going to have a touch point with their customers, whether it's the label design on a brewery beer can, right, to then the interior of the space, to then their website, to then their marketing materials. If we can consistently elevate that experience, their customers get that high and integrated experience from a design standpoint.
So when was your aha moment of this is our area that we want to focus in on? When did that happen for you, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, it happened with a client that we were doing an interior complete renovation, and they were struggling with what their brand was going to be and how to take the brand and integrate graphically, experientially, how to integrate that brand into the interior of the space. And we had just started to evolve this opportunity internally, and we said, here's how we can approach this, right? Let's think about each of these otherwise somewhat disparate components to your project, and we'll bring them together with our creative team in an integrated way. And the light bulb went off, both for them as a client and for us, that now there's consistency in what we've developed so that it's equal across the board for the experience we create.
Oh, wow.
And one example that was newer to me that I've experienced from your guys' design is KOA. Mm-hmm. And I think all of those things that you're talking about, and they've been around for over 65 years, I believe. And just what you guys did with an existing brand and really bringing that brand to life in their new space it's beyond stunning. And Toby's so proud of it, which she should be. And she speaks so highly of your team in building that space and really bringing it to life. And what does KOA mean? I think when you walk into their new building, you experience KOA not just by looking at their logo, but really what it means to work and be a KOA franchisee or user of a KOA campground, all of those things.
Yeah, that is a perfect example actually of, Toby and her team at KOA were innovative in their thinking. They let us really go to say, let's truly capture the essence of KOA in a building, right? What an incredible challenge. And the most exciting opportunity is how do we take a brand and really distill out the essence of what they want, who they are, and then translate that into built space. Wow, it's super powerful. And there's, when you walk into that space, that's what we want you to feel, right? That you're connected to the outdoors, that you understand the power of their vision to connect people to the outdoors. How do we do that with a building? And so it's those very big and very small moves throughout that building that do that. We made very intentional decisions through the process. For example, in any space throughout that building, you have access to the outdoors, to seeing daylight, right? That's why the building is somewhat long and narrow, because it was really important to them. They don't have any dark spaces. There are no spaces where you're not constantly connected to the outdoors, even if it's just visually through glass.
Which it's a stunning building. And I think all of that, even the outdoor with a campfire, I think all of that incorporated for their team and then who they'll host out there is really exciting. Moving into culture, you said that was really important to you when you wanted to work at A&E. How have you preserved that and grown it now as the CEO for a good number of years?
Yeah, I talk a lot about the foundation from which we have been able to grow. And two of the founding partners of A&E are still very connected to the firm. One of them still has a desk in the office that we have said we'll always preserve for him. Last year was our 50th anniversary. Wow. And just such an important milestone for us to reflect back. And I believe so much in legacy and impact that's happened before us. And so I remind our team, many of our team have heard me say this over and over and over again. And then the new people that join our team hear me talk about it as a priority to preserve what's great about our past. And there's a tremendous story there of a lot of pain and suffering, as well as a lot of opportunity that's come when you're building a brand new business and you're trying to figure it out and you're trying to kind of claw your way up. We have the benefit of building upon that legacy. And so looking back on that, thinking about those two founders and really pulling from the culture that they instilled and then enhancing it and making it our own and better, and what I find to be important priorities for us moving forward, but never losing sight of the importance of, the cultural aspects that they really influenced, which are, we're going to work hard, but we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. We're going to take incredible care of our people. The stat that has always impressed me the most with our firm and our culture is we don't tend to lose people, right? Once they're here and they're committed, they get it. They see the opportunity, they see the culture, they see the big picture, so they stay. And that retention is so critical to our success, that when you can keep people, not only for us selfishly as a business and as a design firm, but also for our community, right? We talk a lot about in the larger community, how do we attract and retain young talent to this community? And as we've put such a focus on our brand and our culture, we have found that has helped exceedingly hiring people, right? That ability for people to resonate with your brand and culture and say, that's the kind of place I want to work, it makes recruiting a heck of a lot easier. And so now as we start to look forward, a big component of culture to me is building leaders through the firm. So I talk about a lot about leaders building leaders, and the power of great leadership transcends through the firm, and it leaves such a lasting impact on so many people that we've made a big priority on building leadership and leaders at every level in the organization, and people feeling empowered to make a difference and feeling empowered in their daily work to know that I contribute here, I can help shape the direction of this firm. My work is meaningful. It's having a lasting impact in the community. So the culture just becomes so ingrained that everyone can kind of look around and you have that sort of nod at each other that, yeah, this matters. The idea that people like us do things like this, whatever those things are, this connection to each other is a really integral part of our culture.
So how do you, with having, multiple locations, how do you incorporate that culture throughout all of the locations? Is it with that leaders building leaders, or?
Yeah, that's pivotal to growth, right? So that how do we maintain connectedness and that integration when we now have 4 locations, right? So we're in Billings, Bozeman, Missoula, and Kalispell, and we have very carefully and intentionally grown in a way that does not silo off each of those locations. We don't serve as individual businesses or profit centers or anything like that, because the cross connection between those firms and there's always going to be these subtleties between each location and the kind of subculture and elements that naturally sort of bubble within each location. That's actually great. That little bit of identity is really important. But a broader kind of umbrella culture that influences decisions and people, no matter the location, is far more important. And so spending time between offices, having people going back and forth. We have we have an annual office-wide retreat we just had a couple of weeks ago in Chico, and we meet there with, we're pushing 180 some people now because we have the employees and families and everybody come together and really celebrate the what we're doing and get together so that we can be connected. But then throughout the year, working on projects, we actually don't structure our teams solely based on physical location. We structure them based on the right talent for the right project. So we do a lot of cross collaboration.
I was wondering if you go, I don't know if you have a guy named Jeff in Kalispell, right? But Jeff in Kalispell is really good at this, so we're going to pull him into this project here in Billings.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just pull the talent and then we have our people. It's really pretty straightforward to get around and just be where we need to be to solve a project, right? So when we have very specific expertise in healthcare design or education or historic preservation, any of these areas that we work, hospitality, branding, we just pull the right people from wherever they're at and make sure they're there to work on that project.
So when you talk about leaders building leaders, what are some of those tangible things that you guys do within your culture that really do cultivate and build leaders? You talked a little bit about empowerment, but what are some of those other things?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've done this last year is create a leadership development program internally that we have an amazing human resources director, Sylvia Noble, and she's just really been thoughtful about how we continue to sort of execute on these visionary things that we set for. So when I talk about leaders building leaders, and she's taking it and really helping us grow to a platform where we take people from all different levels within the firm and all different disciplines and start to cross-pollinate and talk about and go through we just completed a year-long leadership development program where there's a component of cohorts that are discussing ideas and issues within the firm. There's a component of kind of learning that you're doing various reading and online kind of tools that we're using to elevate that conversation, right? To make, because I find that there's a lot of people that can't even really define what leadership is or didn't realize that they have the opportunity to be a leader because they think, well, my position isn't one that I need to be a leader, right? Or they might say, well, I didn't realize in my role, leadership is important. Well, absolutely it's important. And that just that simple awareness of what leadership looks like and the power of it and how you can influence and grow and become a better team, a better person, and a better firm because of the prioritization of leadership. Man, it is so powerful. And I just love to see it taking hold. And then you watch someone grow personally who really didn't have an awareness or a strength in leadership just turn and and then they have an entire team that is following them and growing and learning and then realizing, wow, this really does matter. So if I can empower someone to achieve what they never thought was possible, what a great goal, right? And now if we can begin to perpetuate that throughout the entire firm, we can create success at so many different levels. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's really powerful. And so how would you describe your leadership style?
We like to ask hard questions here.
Put you on the spot because we want to talk about you. Yeah.
So I believe so much in the word I used earlier, which is empowerment, and creating great leadership to me is about realizing the potential in someone, helping them see that for themselves, and then helping them execute on that, right? If I can help someone achieve something that they never thought was possible through empowerment, what a great legacy to leave, what a great impact that I feel like I can have on someone. And I also see it through a lens of being bold and courageous in where we go, right? We have shifted the direction of our firm in a significant way. We have grown in a significant way that many before me said, I don't think we can do that, or I don't know if we want to do that. Hey, we're 20, 25 people. That's a sweet spot. And yet I realized that that's really limiting in the impact that we can have. And if we can grow and we can have more resources to take on more complicated projects, we can begin to have a greater impact and legacy in our communities for the types of projects that we want to do that we wouldn't otherwise have the resources to take on if we didn't grow. And so being bold and saying, hey, we can do this, and then bringing everybody along to help shape what that vision looks like. We went through a strategic planning process about 5 years ago where we actually included every single person in the firm. Does not matter if you've been here for 25 years or 2 months, you are a part of shaping the direction of A&E Design. And that really showed me the power of including every single person in a vision and where we're going. They take ownership, right? And people support that which they help create. And when they feel ownership in where we're going, people were owning initiatives and challenges and tasks at an extremely high level. Where in the past there had been oftentimes I think the challenge is you set a strategic plan and it's crafted by a handful of the top executives in a business. They set that strategic plan and then they try to kind of beat everybody into submission on the process, right? It's like, here's where we're going, and everybody.
And the board helps set, and then you're like, this is what we're doing.
That's right. Yeah. And if that actually can come from within and people can take ownership of initiatives that they're passionate about and they want to see accomplished, wow, some of our most successful initiatives out of that plan, there was no partner in the firm involved with, right? It was employees that said, we can get better at this or that, and take it and own it and achieve at a very high level. So that's the kind of leadership that I think is actually somewhat quiet. It's just sort of, you make it happen from within, and then you're really behind everybody pushing instead of in front of everybody pulling.
I really like that example. I'm just thinking of sometimes talk about the up the hill, what kind of leader are you? Or it's in the boat or pushing something up the hill. What are you doing? Are you pushing? Are you stabbing at the tire? What are you doing? So
I have a great boat analogy.
I'd love to hear it.
Go for it. Are you rowing?
So I draw this terrible boat, and there's people in the front, and they're rowing, and they're your actively engaged employees. They're excited to be there. They believe in your mission. They're compatible with, what you're looking to do, and they're rowing. And then you have the people in the middle who are like, I'll row when I want. So they row every once in a while, and they'll do the bare minimum to get the job done. And then you have your actively disengaged people in the back. And no matter how much you have the people in the front rowing, in the back, they have hammers and they're just jabbing holes in the back of the boat. And so in your case, it seems like you've done a great job in having actively engaged employees that are they have a similar mentality. They understand the vision and the mission, and they choose to be there every day to execute on those. And you've empowered them to make choices and grow within your organization. I don't know if you have any boat hammer people, but the picture's quite nice.
That's a great analogy. I think those people always there's always some aspect of that, right? Whether it's people or it's cultural challenges, whatever those that are either hammering the boat or rowing the other way, there's always that level of overcoming and challenge. But I think the job of the leadership is really to find those people and help them see something bigger, be a part of something that they were otherwise hammering a hole in the boat to that analogy, you realize that there's a better way to use the hammer, and we just have to help you find what you're passionate about. I talk a lot about finding people's sweet spot. Like what is it that fires you up every day? What do you want to do? So often, I think specifically in the architecture space, there's this kind of idea that you have to go from being a designer to being a project manager to kind of growing through all these different roles. And there's certainly a value to experiencing and being well-versed in all these disciplines within our industry. But there's also people have natural talents and natural skill sets that they tend to lean into. And why not leverage those for the work that we're doing, right? Leverage that talent and that fire that people have to say, let's put you in that place so you can do that every day. That's what keeps people saying, man, I love showing up to work every day. And
I want to keep coming back. We just recently did our staff planning and we did the Gallup Clifton Strengths Assessment. We have a ton of new team members and our energy right now is really, I would say, excited, energetic, and like just ready to like put that bar really high and do a lot of good work to reach for it. But it was really reaffirming to me just looking at it collectively with everyone's, because a lot of our client facing team members lead with the relationship building theme. So if you're familiar at all, it's like executing strategic, influencing, and relationship building. And I think what's fulfilling in that way is they get to do that on a daily basis by interacting with clients and helping those clients start a business, get a government contract, build a facility, and really being part of their story in that way. And so for us, we just did that recently and it was really fun to see everyone's, and they were so excited too, which I loved seeing. They were so excited to see their assessment results and then to talk to each other about it.
To compare it.
Yeah, to compare.
Like, oh my God, where's this on yours?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it was just exciting to hear them see themselves in a different way, because I think little things like that where it's just an assessment and then you have to build upon it. But for them to be able to reflect on themselves and see that about themselves was so impactful to watch.
And I will say, as a success in this same scenario is that when I was originally hired on, I was part operations, part SBDC. Okay. And they could see that I really thrived in the SBDC. And so when the opportunity came to shift me full-time SBDC, it was like a no-brainer. They just slid me right in there because that's where my passion is. I've been in that role. It'll be 4 years coming up, and I love it every day. Like I come so excited. I've got new ideas all the time. I'm making everybody go crazy because I'm like, we've got to do this. So it's like that, right? Just having that conversation, understanding where my fire is, and then placing me in the right space.
Oh, that is so perfect. Yeah. And you show up every day with that level of energy and enthusiasm for what you're doing because you're in that place.
Yeah, right? I think I give Steve more gray hairs, but
me too.
That's good. It's good.
So it sounds like your team and helping them be successful gives you a lot of energy and excitement. Where are some other places that you find inspiration as a leader of your company within the state of Montana? Where do you find other inspiration and exciting ideas to bring back and implement into your organization?
Yeah, there's a couple layers to that. When my wife and I committed to staying in Montana, we also committed to traveling a lot. And that's really important to us to just, I think it's so good to see the broader world and all corners of it and how we can bring various things back to Montana and back to our communities. The work that really inspires me today and kind of moving forward as we grow our firm is really thinking about the work in our communities. And you just, as an architect and someone focused so much on design and thinking about experiences we create, those experiences are, everything about them impacts the broader community, whether it's the person hiring us to design that building or the millions of people that might experience that building over time, right? Think about legacy, think about longevity of a built environment. And that just like our building that we're in, that we rehabbed, it's had many chapters in its story and many lives. So will our future buildings, right? And as they evolve and they become part of the fabric of a community, that inspires me every day to raise the bar on the quality of our work, to think about this really might be a very small project in the scheme of the many different things we have going, or it might be very large, but it impacts people. I think about, we're working on the expansion to the Billings Airport, right? And the number of visitors that will come through.
It's beautiful, by the way. You're doing great.
Yeah, it's an impactful project, right? And then you look down and I think about, say, a little corner right down the street from us for the Billings Symphony, a little remodel of an existing space, and how we get creative to think about, hey, this is a really important organization in our community, and now they have a much more vibrant and kind of exposed presence to Billings by being on a corner in downtown.
I love finding their like secret design elements throughout the space too.
The chandeliers, the bathroom, like the tiling. But I think it sounds like, and I see it in KOA, the symphony, and some of your other projects you guys share on your social media, but it's a better reflection too. I think it's like when we moved in here, I think it excited us that have been here with the organization longer because it's a better reflection of who we are and the work we do. And so we're proud to come to work. And I guarantee the symphony team is like way more proud to come to work in that space than they were when they were in here, hidden away.
They were in our building.
In some tiny corner. I don't even know where they were.
I think they were
upstairs.
On the second or third
somewhere
floor.
Hidden.
And you had to go through the back way. Yeah, it was hard to find them.
It was a maze.
And you don't realize that, I think, in architecture school as much of just, everything is so idealistic. And then when you get out and you start practicing and you realize this is no longer done in a vacuum, right? These projects we're taking all the great design that you learned in school and you learned how to implement and how to think creatively. And now it's there's real money and real people involved. And now I often tell our team and think back, when we talk about, to the earlier question, which projects do we go after? It's through this lens of doing the work that we always promised ourselves we would, right? When you're in school and everything's so idealistic and you think if we can focus on doing the work that you always promised yourself you would do when you got out, and how is that work going to have an impact in the community now, is that layer, and the people side of architecture has always been a passion of mine. And I always think about there's the built space, and then there's the people side. And the people side is the people that are going to experience that building, but also the people that go through the design process, right? And the people that have hired us, and the people that I get to build a relationship with. Those relationships are paramount. And I kind of put that above everything else, because even if there's an opportunity to help somebody make something better through our work, it really doesn't matter the size. It doesn't matter. I mean, we do a lot of community give back and a lot of pro bono work that has no financial impact to us, but it has a tremendous community impact. And it's about that relationship building that I know is going to matter, and it's going to be part of a legacy that I hope is the same degree of the legacy that my grandfather left in the community, that my grandkids will then get that same feedback that I got from clients of his.
You've talked a lot about community, and it's very important to you. How do you stay engaged with the communities that you work in?
Yeah, I like to find opportunities for things that really matter and invest my time in those. So I sit on a number of boards and organizations. I'm very involved with, of course, there's a lot of business-focused organizations, but then also personally, my 10-year-old son, our firstborn, has Down syndrome. And so I have gotten very involved with Eagle Mount and just the opportunities for creating recreational opportunities for people with special needs is really near and dear to my heart, and very important to our family and to West, my eldest son. My family has a nonprofit organization called United Love, LUV, and
I've seen that. Yeah, or I've heard of it.
Yeah, it started after I lost my younger brother to a very rare form of cancer when he was 26, and he had a really great experience with getting an iPad. It's this very simple tool, right? It's a very simple tool to remain connected. He was traveling all over to various hospitals and cancer care treatment centers looking for a cure, right, to this very rare tumor that was entwined in his hip. And he found that this very simple tool, and oftentimes he was in an area where there were other young people that didn't have resources. They didn't have resources to buy an iPad, and they were there by themselves because their family couldn't travel with them to this specialized cancer treatment center. And he had this vision of, wouldn't it be powerful if we could give iPads to cancer patients, right? Young patients in particular that they don't have the resources, and then they could connect to their family or they could connect to their friends, or it will occupy their time. And he knew and felt like there's a lot of great research being done and dollars being committed to cancer research. But what if I could have a tangible impact in someone's life today? Right?
Yeah.
To their laying in a hospital bed, how do I slightly improve their life today? And so we started this after he lost his battle with cancer. We started United Love around that mission of giving iPads to cancer patients. And I mean, we've donated, over 1,000 iPads around the country. We started with the hospitals in Montana.
Yeah.
Then we went to Seattle and Denver and St. Jude's and have donated iPads all over. And now we do a lot of individual donations as well, just to someone that we're connected to the foundations in tied to many of these hospitals that will reach out and just say, hey, we've got a patient that doesn't have the means to buy an iPad. This would be really impactful. So we pack a basket full of iPad and United Love's, apparel and various things. And then we just donate that to them to hopefully improve their lives and their experience.
Well, and then
awesome.
I think too of, if they can't be there with their families and just the impact that has not only on them, but their families and staying connected, because that's a scary thing to be in. And then if you're alone and you're young and you're like, my family can't afford to be here, I think that ability to connect with them at any point in time is like majorly impactful beyond just the patient, but for their family as well.
That's very true. Yeah. And we've found just incredible story after incredible story of how these iPads have been used. The Seattle Cancer Care Alliance came back to us later and said, we hope you're okay with this, but we've actually found a really great use for some of the iPads to serve as a translation tool for different languages that we get here. And we're like, absolutely. What a cool use that we didn't see coming. But if it makes a difference in someone's life, we're good, right? Like, that's what we want it to do.
I didn't even think about how kind of scary that would be. Is I'm here alone. I don't have a way to connect with my family. I can't communicate with the people around me. So you're very lonely and scared as you're going through this experience.
That's exactly right.
And then people, coming in from other countries to get services like that, and they are by themselves.
Yeah.
To get the treatment we have in the U.S.
Well, gosh, thank you for doing that work.
Yeah, it's been a really great way to redirect energy, especially for my parents, to just redirect that energy into something positive.
Absolutely.
And make a really big impact in the community. You guys also do locally here in Billings. Your team leads Earth Day, right? It's Earth Day.
We do. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and why you guys started?
Yeah. This comes back to just thinking about our communities and the impact we can have. We have what we call our culture crew that really just is trying to be innovative in the work that we do, right? Innovative in all aspects of, let's just make a difference wherever we work and play. We want to improve that place. And so our culture crew came up with this idea of, we're right here downtown. Let's use Earth Day as a means to start a downtown cleanup initiative. And it was just a very simple idea that started. We reached out to the DBA and said, hey, we've got this thought. And they were like, heck yeah, we're in, we'll support it. They sent it out through the communication, and Thirsty Street said, hey, we'll donate a beer to everybody who does it. So now it's turned into and each year we've gained a little bit more momentum, and we get other downtown business owners and employees to come forward, and everyone meets at our office on Earth Day in the afternoon. We walk around with brooms and pick up and clean. And we're always impressed that in a couple hours time, we can majorly clean up, alleyways, and just, it always feels great, right? It's just one of those super simple things, but as it builds momentum, it feels meaningful, and it's kind of fun to watch those little things turn into a community initiative that can change things.
Well, then bringing you guys are the leaders in that, and then just bringing the whole downtown community along with you. I mean, the bid team cleans, but they don't get the chance to always deep clean those things that I think the Earth Day crew can do a little bit more, because we're all volunteering time and getting some of those areas that the bid crew can't always get.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's a big lift. Right?
So just a quick thing too. So we've talked a lot about A&E, your different offices across the state. Just quickly, how are you guys structured? It's different, I think, where we're, in a more traditional business where you have like executives, seniors, but in architecture, you guys have a lot of different names that are maybe foreign to some of us that aren't in that world. So if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we have So as you noted, the leadership tiers are, or the kind of structure is maybe a little bit different. So I'm the CEO, and then we have, and part of our managing partner group. So we often, I think generally in the architecture industry, often refer to either partners or principals as really owners in the firm and the directors of kind of where the firm is going. And so we have a managing partner group of 3 people, and then we have 8 other principals that are within the firm, and those are kind of spread among offices, and they're really directing business development and design and just kind of broadly leadership. And then we've actually set some great leadership tiers for just creating more opportunities for people to grow in their area of expertise and kind of stay in that sweet spot, right, that we talk about. But becoming an associate is kind of a next step in a leadership trajectory. Becoming an associate, then a senior associate. And at a senior associate level, you're starting to potentially buy into the firm, owning stock in the company. And then it goes up to principal and managing principals.
Okay. Thank you for describing that. I've just been curious because we have a few, we interact with you guys and some others around town, and those are always, and I think it's interesting for people listening of what the structure of a design firm is.
Yeah.
Like, we've had so much fun talking with you. We're going to take a quick moment for a sponsor message before we jump into our rapid fire questions.
Hi, this is Shannon Hahn with the Department of Transportation and the Small Business Program. I'm here to talk to you today about the DBE and the SBE programs. The DBE program is for disadvantaged small businesses, so that's minority and women, and the SBE program is for non-minority and non-women-owned businesses. These programs provide business assistance to contribute to the growth and self-sufficiency of businesses in the transportation industry. Services include business skills development, training, networking opportunities, bonding assistance, and much, much more. So if you're a highway-related business, please go to our website. You'll see what the eligibility criteria is at mdt.mt.gov. You can call our 1-800 number, which is 800-883-5811. So give us a call. Thanks.
Well, Dusty, thank you for being with us today and sharing your story and all of the great things you guys are doing at A&E. We like to end each episode with 3 rapid fire questions. And my first one is, as a business leader in Billings, what's your favorite thing about doing business in Billings?
The people, without question. Yeah. Amazing community of very supportive people in Billings. Very authentic people.
Mm-hmm.
I came up with this one while you were talking because I'm always curious with architects when they travel, what are they traveling for? Is it just to travel to see other structures and get inspired? Or are you like, I just want to go to a beach and like not think about anything?
Both. Like, I love all aspects of travel. I mean, from being in a Medina in Morocco to being on a beach, I will find great joy and inspiration no matter where I travel. Looking at the people, the culture, the architecture. I actually did a project while I was in school. I had the opportunity to travel across Western Europe for a few months, and I did a photography project focused on doorknobs.
Oh, wow.
That'd be fascinating.
So it was the Powers of 10 project where you start zoomed in on an object. So I selected a doorknob, and you start zoomed in with one photo, and then you have 10 photos and you back further away from that object. And so you can see the context in which that object exists, and to see the difference in something as simple as a doorknob and then a door and then the building it's on and then the street it's on and the community it's in as you zoom back. Very stark contrast, of course, as you kind of go across these different communities from someplace like London or Amsterdam down into Spain or Morocco, and you get a very different perspective.
So,
wow.
Since you travel a lot, what have been some of your favorite places? This is this is just a bonus question.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Where do you like to go?
Well, I love to travel in Europe and just to see the different ways people live and the way the buildings kind of create streets and create communities. I'm fascinated with that, but I also love finding these gems in the places that we're in the United States, in Montana. I've had the opportunity to work on a very impactful project in Winifred, Montana, for example.
Wow.
And the very small community, and yet the greatest people I've ever met. And they're so thankful for this work on this new school. And
I bet.
it's, you get the chance to go places that you might not otherwise, and then do meaningful work and meet great people. And there's nothing better. To me, there's nothing better than traveling, and it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm, going a couple hours from here into a rural community. If you have the opportunity to travel internationally or just kind of anywhere in between, I love to just find that opportunity to learn and to grow from different experiences. And that's what I always hope to be able to instill for my kids, that no matter where you're going, that you can learn from people, and you can learn from the way they live and the cultures that they embrace. And it's really important.
Well, speaking of legacies, and in our earlier conversation, the legacy I bet you all left will be very impactful for years to come with a school in a small town. I just think those are they're community centers really for small towns like that. And the amount of traffic that will come into that, foot traffic, people, students, parents, for generations to come is really impactful.
Absolutely. I often say that our schools are our most important civic building in any community, right? They become that hub. And you take a small community, gosh, we're working on so many schools around the state, but you take one like Winifred or Lolo or some of these smaller communities, Columbus, right? These are really important. They're from athletics to voting to community events to your students' education there. I mean, it's such an important hub of any community.
It really is. Yeah. I come from a little town, so it's fun to think, they built the school that I went to, when my dad was in high school, I think. So he went through it. My brother and I went through it. So just that fun, nostalgia and now going back and watching all the other sports and things like that happen in it. It's fun. So our last question is, what is your favorite book on organizational culture?
Ooh, that is a really great question. I love Seth Godin's writing. He has a book called Tribes. It's really, it talks about this idea of, that I mentioned a couple times, that people like us do things like this, the connectedness to your people. There's aspects of that I've talked about a lot with our team. I've recently read a book called Culture Code that I thought just really exemplified the power of culture. I have many people on our team reading that book.
I read that because you recommended it, and it was really, really good.
Yeah. Good.
And I think one big takeaway I had from that after you recommended it, and it was some stuff you talked about when we met and then what I talked with Sylvia about, but getting your team's input, the impact and importance of just asking your team and what that can do as you move in and shape your organization, the culture, and all the things that you do as a team.
Yeah, I think that is so true, and it's become so ingrained now in our culture, because I just talk about it a lot, and making sure people feel included and feel a part of where we're going and a part of the process is really important. I also, my last, I could do this forever, because I love books like this, and any book from Simon Sinek or many of his kind of podcasts and YouTube videos. I just find him to be a really good thinker, and I really like his discussion on finding your why. And there's a couple of different platforms that he talks about that, but it really inspired me to really dig to the core of, why do we exist? Why are we here? And how do we make that matter?
That's a great ending. So Dusty, thank you. Where can people find you, get connected with you?
Yeah, our A&E Design, we're on LinkedIn and about any other platform. So our team does a good job of making sure we're out there and showing our work and our people and culture. Yeah, they do. Awesome. Kudos to your marketing department. They do a great job.
And where can they find out more information about United Love?
Yeah, unitedlove.com.
Awesome.
Or .org.
One of those.
We'll look it up. We'll share it. Well, thank you, Dusty. Thanks for all you do for our community.
Thank you both. Great time spending with you.
Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Make sure you are subscribed to The Vault at 201 North Broadway, wherever you podcast, including YouTube.
Connect with us on Facebook at The Vault at 201 North Broadway and Instagram at The Vault_201.
Don't forget to visit us at thevault@201.com and subscribe to our newsletter.
We will see you next time.
Bye. Thank you to the Small Business Development Center for sponsoring The Vault at 201 North Broadway. The Small Business Development Center offers free personalized support from business plans to financial projections and beyond, empowering small businesses to thrive. Reach out to us at bigsky.economicdevelopment.org.